Hi there. Welcome to the Imperfect Profit podcast for women who wonder. Frankly, as we go through life, I'm sure we wonder about a great deal. First as little kids, then as adolescents, then as young women, then as transitional women. What are we calling ourselves these days? And then you get to this point in life, or my point in life, when you're postmenopausal and wondering what's next. Wondering if the parade already passed you by. Join me, Wonder Wendy. I'm going to be your host as we talk about some of these unique challenges that face women today in a new millennium, going through menopause and trying to live a rich, full life. There might even be a few men and younger women that want to listen in too. That's okay. But there's a roller coaster and we're all on it. And I'm going to be your guide to help you figure out when you should close your eyes, when you should hang on, and maybe we'll explore some ideas for what works for you if it doesn't work for me, or vice versa. So join the conversation, pick up your favorite beverage, and we'll talk to you soon. Welcome to the Imperfect Prophet. Hey there. I've got a lovely glass of red wine. And I hope you're holding a beverage too, because I don't know about you, it's been one heck of a week. Life just kind of keeps piling it on. And I've been talking to a lot of friends who feel very much the same way. So grab your beverage and let's have a little bit of a conversation. How about that? I'm going to start out talking about my phone. And lately, it's been letting me know that my storage is almost full, with a polite but persistent warning that pops up and says, storage limit at 94%. That's usually when it gives me a warning. So I do what it suggests. I delete caches, I clear temporary files, I make a little space, empty the trash. And a few days later, there it is again. And here's my confession. I'm afraid to clean out the photos. Because what if I lose them? What if I delete something that really matters? Yeah, I'm pretty sure everything's backed up at least one place, but that fear is mine and I own it. Welcome to another episode of The Imperfect Prophet with me, your host, Wonder Wendy. And today we are talking about a very first world problem. Running out of storage. Too much. We have too much. Now, my phone has a finite amount of space. Even though I know logically that most of it is backed up somewhere else, like we said, it's maybe in the cloud or some drive or something, I don't know. Some invisible place that promises me safety. And still, I want it right here in my hand. Accessible, just in case. So I can pull it up. Okay, not in a moment's notice because there's so many photos, it takes me forever to find the one I'm looking for. But I know there's a truth to that. When my phone is full, it doesn't work the way it's supposed to. It slows down, it freezes, it stops responding. And I know that solution. I need to make space. Does this sound familiar to you? Maybe it's not your phone. Maybe it's your closet, your desk, the filing cabinet you keep meaning to go through. That junk drawer in the kitchen that somehow contains scissors, rubber bands, expired coupons, and that mystery key that doesn't seem to fit anything, but you're afraid to get rid of it because then you'll find out exactly what you needed it for. Now, I know friends who don't have this problem. Quite frankly, they baffle me. They have clear counters, organized closets, no junk drawer. How do you do that? And if that's you, you're still welcome to listen because you're listening today, not because you need this message, but so you can better understand the rest of us. But here's the thing, it's not just about stuff. And lately it hasn't been just my phone that feels full. It's my mind, my heart, my nervous system. That feeling when one more email, one more delay, one more, it'll be there soon, feels like it might just push me over the edge. Not because any one thing is that big, but because everything is happening all at once. It's emotional overload in real time. I actually have a very tangible example in mind. I'm working with a contractor who isn't, shall we say, delivering what was promised. The timeline keeps moving further out. The work isn't finished. And every time I check in, there's a reason. A sickness, a family emergency. Believe it or not, the dog died. Something else came up. And listen, I believe those things. I'm not heartless. I understand that life happens. But at some point, empathy starts bumping up against reality. And here's the part we don't talk about enough: how pressure actually builds. I almost never explode the first time or the second. I tell myself, be patient, be understanding. It's not that person. Screaming at them will not make them more productive. So I hold it. I hold the frustration. I hold the disappointment. I hold the anger that feels inappropriate, but very real. And every new excuse that causes a delay doesn't arrive by itself. They stack on top of the emails needing to be answered, on top of the decisions weighing on my mind, on top of the responsibilities already humming in the background of my life, my pending test results. And then there's that moment. Maybe you had one like this, where something inside you starts to scream, "You have my money. You promised me results. What is happening?" Not because you're cruel, not because you lack compassion, but because your storage is full. And for those of us who struggle with overload, this didn't come out of nowhere. I grew up watching my mom make the best of everything and save stuff just in case. She was raised during the Depression when resources were scarce and nothing was wasted. In the early years of my parents' marriage, with a house full of kids and my dad still finishing school, everything mattered. And long after they were, shall we say, comfortable, Mom hated to throw anything out. In many ways, she was a genius. She mastered conservation and upcycling long before they were buzzwords. My mom could feed a small army with a can of tuna and just a few other ingredients. She turned sour milk into the tastiest baked goods. Her sour milk donuts made me excited to have the milk go bad. I know, isn't that a novel admission? And a skirt that didn't fit anymore, well, that could be reborn with a ruffle or maybe a ribbon to expand the size. Old sour cream became fudge, the most sublime fudge you've ever eaten, by the way. Oh, but just don't ask about the time she used what she thought was sour cream, but was actually mislabeled blue cheese dressing. Oh, that was not so good. Oh, and then there was the time she tried to give old bologna a second life. Oh, that was a stinky failure that we do not need to repeat. When bologna goes bad, it's bad. Just let it go. Mercifully, I inherited her creativity and I inherited her fear of running out. Now, even in business, we have a word for saving things, as they are called assets. Something you've already paid for, something that still holds value, something sitting there waiting to be used. And in business, we're taught that if you've paid for something and you're not using it, that's actually a loss. Unused inventory, idle equipment, ideas collecting dust, all of them you need to balance. So from that perspective, my parents weren't hoarding. They were being good stewards. They were saying, we paid for this, we might need it, it still has value. And most of the time, they were right. But business also teaches us something else. And that's when asset thinking breaks down. Not every asset stays an asset forever. And not everything you've invested in deserves continued investment. That's called putting good money after bad. That's when you keep pouring time, energy, or resources into something, not because it's working, but because you've already invested so much. Walking away feels like admitting failure, like acknowledging a loss, like saying, I misjudged this. It may mean admitting you made a mistake. And suddenly that old baloney stops being an asset and becomes a liability. And of course, we all know this isn't just about business or stuff. We do the same thing with our hearts. We do it with projects that no longer make sense, relationships that stopped being reciprocal, roles we trained for but have outgrown, commitments we keep honoring long after they stopped honoring us. We say things like, I've already put so much into this. I can't just walk away now. I just need to give it a little more time. Sometimes that's wisdom. But sometimes it's fear dressed up as responsibility. Now, I've experienced that in my relationships and, dealing with that contractor. At some point, I'm going to have to ask myself, am I being patient or am I putting a good emotional money, good emotional value, personal energy after bad? Am I being patient or am I putting good emotional after bad? Oh my gosh, that's just so hard to think about. I want to honor compassion, but I need to have that hard conversation because, well, I'm being let down. When you've already paid financially or emotionally, it becomes much harder to say this isn't working. So here's the thing about assets. They still take up space. Inventory needs warehouses. Equipment needs maintenance. Emotional investments require energy. And when you hold everything because it once had value, eventually you exceed capacity. And that's when the system slows. That's when resentment creeps in. That's when your nervous system starts flashing its own warning. Storage limits exceeded. You know what it looks like. It looks like me breaking down and screaming in a room, saying, blankety, 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 expletive, expletive, expletive. I've had enough. What's going on here? That's when you know I've blown up. Okay. Let's look at another expression. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We still use it, but lots of people don't really know where it came from. And the phrase dates back to one time when an entire family would use the same bathtub full of water, not as often as we would like in our modern society. And they would use it one at a time. The adults went first, the children followed. And by the time they finally got to the baby, that water was, well, not exactly clear. It was murky and dark. I'm a little disgusted. Anyway, it was clouded by everything that came before. Sound familiar? The warning was literal in that case. Be careful when you dump that gross, dark water because you might lose track of what matters most. But over time, that phrase has evolved into something more symbolic. It's a reminder not to get rid of the good along with the bad. And I think that distinction matters here. Because when we talk about storage limits, when we talk about overload, when we talk about making space, we're not talking about erasing our history. Keep those precious photos. We're not talking about dismissing what once had value. We're not talking about burning it all down and starting over. We're talking about discernment again. We're talking about the ability to look at what we're carrying and say, this still serves me and this doesn't. This mattered then. This is costing me now. Sometimes the problem isn't the baby, it's the bathwater. It's the accumulation of things that were once useful, maybe protective, maybe at one time necessary, but not anymore. And when everything is treated as equally sacred, we lose clarity. Not because we don't care, but because you can't care about everything. When that water gets cloudy or the system slows down and we start confusing preservation with wisdom, it's too much. Remember that making space doesn't mean you've lost your values. It means you're refining them. It means you're choosing what deserves care, energy, and attention now, not just what once did. And that to me feels like the heart of this episode. Not ruthless elimination. Oh, those people scare me. Don't just pull up a dumpster and dump it all. But also not sentimental hoarding, but thoughtful, compassionate discernment. Yes, discernment. It matters. Some things age beautifully, some investments mature, some relationships deepen with time. Wisdom isn't just knowing how to save. Wisdom is knowing what to stop carrying. Ooh. So maybe the question isn't, what do I need to get rid of? Maybe it's, what am I still treating like an asset that's actually costing me? What am I afraid to write off, even though it's draining me? What am I carrying out of loyalty to the past that's crowding out the present? Because when life feels like it's too much, it's often not because we failed. It's because we're still carrying everything that once made sense. And no system, no phone, no business, or human heart was designed to hold it all forever. So as we draw this discussion to a close, I remind you that sometimes the most beneficial thing you can do is listen when the warning appears, not with panic, not with shame, but with curiosity. Storage limits exceeded, or maybe only at 94%. What might happen if you made a little space? Now, being overwhelmed doesn't mean you're weak. I need you to know that. It usually means you've been strong for a really long time and you're a little bit tired. And storage limits are just feedback. They're the moment your system says, I can't keep holding everything the same way. And feedback doesn't ask for punishment. It asks for care. So if life feels like too much right now, you're not alone. And you don't need to fix it all. You don't need to make a big decision necessarily. And you don't need to clear everything out at once. You might just need a little kindness, a little space, a little room to breathe. You're not behind, you're not broken. You are human. So until next week, keep taking care of yourself and enjoy an occasional comforting beverage. And if this episode made you think of someone, please share it with them. Don't exceed your storage and give others the space to do likewise.
Like what you heard here today? Then we should be friends. I suggest you join my Facebook group. It's a good way to connect. We can have a conversation, ask me questions, whatever you want to do. It is called the Wonderful Bucket List Life. That's Wonder-Full Bucket List Life. Be a bucket lister and join me on this adventure. Or you can go to my webpage, which is Wonder Wendy and Friends, join the mailing list, learn about the book I wrote, adventures that are coming up in the future, and other podcasts. I look forward to talking to you soon, and stay hydrated. Have a great day.